Hello, everybody. It is Tony. That dude with the beard. We're going to talk about the method section of your paper. We're gonna just go over some basic things that you guys need to include, and I'll tell you where to look for some examples. So, for APA formatting for this section of your paper, you're going to have the word method written in bold and in the center. Then you're going to go to the next line and put participants in bold, but you're going to have it on the left uh, of the page instead of in the center. Don't forget to make sure that it's bold. And then you repeat the steps for materials, procedure, and I know in the rubric Debbie had study design information as something she was going to look at, but I believe you can include that under procedures, so you don't need to have a separate heading called study design. Okay, so for participants, you want to include the frequency information, and you want to let your readers and your peers know your sample size, etc. Uh, with this information, you can get percentages, you can get your means, your standard deviations, and even variance. If you were to drop any data, I want you to be very clear as to why and have a justification. So, for example, if you have an outlier, um, you can get rid of it, but you just have to make sure you let the readers know you had dropped one or a few. I made fictitious data so I can show you guys how to do that in SPSS. So in my fake study, I'm looking at um, I'm looking at perceived level of aggression. So that's going to be my dependent variable. Um, my independent variable is going to be quality of life. And then I have some demographic questions in here, like gender, ethnicity, country, education, um, family discord. So the amount of unrest there is in the family and the amount of arguments are fairly high. Um, so yeah, stress is the other um, IV. For some of these, I gave them codes. So for gender, 0 is female, 1 is male. Um, for the ethnicities, I have 1 equals white, 2 is Latino, Latina / Hispanic, and then African / African American, Asian / Asian American / Pacific Islander, and then Native American and Middle Eastern. Um, and then for birth country, I wasn't gonna put like over 200 countries and like type them out. So I just put 1 equals they were born in the United States, including United States territory, um, and then 2 is outside of U.S. territory. Education level, 1 is freshman, 2 sophomore, so on and so forth. And then family discord, 0 is good relationship, 1 is strained, unhealthy, and then 2 is estranged / disconnected. So for number 2, that's basically they're absolutely not talking to each other or acknowledging each other's presence. And then 1 is like you had a fight, but you're not afraid to like be polite and say hi to your family member at a party or something. So that's what I'm referring to with respect to Discord. Okay, so we're gonna go to analyze descriptive statistics. We're gonna go to frequencies. and then you're going to move over the variables that you want. So for me, that would be gender, ethnicity, birth country, education level, family Discord. Move them over here. Go to statistics. I want a mean, standard deviation, and variance. And then we're going to go ahead and hit continue. And then we hit OK. But before I do that, you might be doing this quite often, all this clicking around. My suggestion is you move your mouse over to the left a little bit and you hit paste. So what that does is it creates syntax, which is coding for SPSS, and it's like a shortcut. So instead of having to click a million times when you close your output and then you're like, shit, I need to check one more thing, and then you go back and then you click. This, you just highlight it and then you hit this play button right here. So it makes your life easier. All you just have to do is hit it once and then everything pops up. Okay, so I have N as 53 across all. It's saying there are 0 values missing, and these are the means for each, which we'll include. Frequency table, male, female, percent, ethnicity, you see these frequencies over here. And then same for birth country, education level, family Discord. So in your procedures, if in your procedure, you're going to want to include this information. Participants. I have an article open to show you an example of what that looks like. Oops. Okay. So we have participants were drawn from a sample, N equals 1,139, and then 569 male of adolescents participating in a longitudinal study about friendships across school transitions. So that's how many people are in the study. Then they go to discuss public elementary schools and middle schools, metropolitan area that served economically diverse communities, 6% to 86%. And then the mean is 39%, standard deviation 30.82. So that's an example. I kind of want to show you how I'd write mine up with these fictitious results. So I'm going to open up new document, make sure it's APA format. Double. Okay, so we'd write something, for example, and just to let you know, there's plenty of examples out there. Mine is just a very simple, very minimal example of what you guys should really be writing. You should be including more information. So I'd say 53, or sorry, in the study, 53. In the study, participants were asked to answer questions about aggression, stress, and quality of life. And then you could do something like n equals 53. And then you'd go on to the other demographics, like, for example, we have gender. Let's see. There were 29 female participants and 24 male participants. And then you could include the percentage as well. So there were 29 female participants. You could write something like 54.7%. Because that also helps people know the composition of your participants. 45.3%. Okay, so then going on to ethnicity, we can say and I'm really shortening this. I would be more detailed, but I would pick the top 3 percentages over here. So right now that is Latino, Latina/Hispanic, white, and then African/African American. So I'm going to talk about these 3. Starting off with, doesn't matter which one you start off with. I'm just going to go from top to bottom. So the sample consisted of 13 white participants. Actually, no, I don't like that. The sample consisted mostly of white, Latino, Latina/Hispanic, and African/African American. And then you could do put those numbers in the parentheses. So for white, it's 24.5%, and the frequency is 13. So we're gonna put that in there, and then percent would be 24.5. And then we put a semicolon, and then Latino, Latina/Hispanic. It's going to be n equals 14, then comma 26.4%. Oops. And then one more, semicolon, and then we're going to do African/African American with 9 of the participants being or identifying as that ethnicity. 17%, respectively. Actually, no, I'll leave that the way it is. So you can write it like that as well. Birth country, you get the idea. You can write these in many different ways. Okay, so that's that. And then if you look in the APA publication manual, that blue book, chapter 2 has an example of actually two examples of manuscripts that I think would be very helpful for you guys. If you'd like me to provide more examples, I can show you some examples from the lab that I work in. Just shoot me an email or something. Okay, so back to the PowerPoint. Oh, I forgot about the means and standard deviations. Okay, let me do that real quick. So, you could also have it look something like okay, so the mean for gender tended toward it's 0.45, so women were coded as 0. Okay, so the mean for gender tended toward women. And then you would include the information like the mean is 0.45 and the standard deviation is 0.50, and then you close that off. And then you could say the mean for gender tended toward women since the participants were predominantly female. Oh dear. Okay, and then you'd have n equals, where's gender? 29. Okay. So you could have something like that as well. Let's do an example with the birth country. You can say there was an almost equal amount of participants born in the U.S. and participants born outside of U.S. territory. Okay, and then you provide that information. You could do it like right after born in the U.S. So I'd start off here writing we have 27. And then you could include the mean and standard deviation. I just noticed I forgot to italicize this. So we're going to do that equals the mean for that. We're going to have to scroll back up here. We see birth country. It's about 1.5. So US is 1, and then outside of US territory is 2. So this, again, it's letting us know that we have an almost equal amount of both kinds of participants. So we could say 1.49, and then standard deviation 0.50. Oops, gotta put a space there real quick. Okay, and then born outside of U.S. territory, we have n equals 26. And then we're going to have our mean of our mean for that is going to be, oh, it would be the same actually, because the mean up here represents both. For both of the levels. So what we can do instead is move things around. We're gonna perhaps move this to the end, and then I would prefer to write this with respect of percentage. So we can 50.9%. And then 49.1%. There was an almost equal amount of participants born in the U.S., 50.9%, and participants born outside of U.S. territory, 49%, and then include information about the mean and standard deviation. The mean equals 1.49. And then standard deviation is 0.50. So there are plenty of ways to write it. Just look up articles if you want more examples, or if you need help, just shoot me an email, please. Okay, and let me just double check what's on here. Variance. A lot of people normally don't include variance because all you just have to do is just square the standard deviation. So, oops. The one that is over here, 0.50, if I square that, it's going to be 0.25. And this one is for gender, so if we scroll up, the variance is about 2.5. So that's why people normally don't include it, because all you just have to do is square it. Okay. Drop data. Okay. I want to show you guys an example. I did create 3 data that either this participant forgot to answer the question, or this participant got distracted and wrote 18 on accident, and then this participant forgot to include their perceived level of stress. So I wouldn't want to include these data in my study. I'm going to filter them out. There are these number generators that you could use that bases this number that will be generated here in the empty space is based on all these other numbers in the column. So it puts a number here that would most likely happen, or the number a participant would most likely put had they not skipped it. I myself don't know how to do that. That's hard. I only learned about it in Univariate Statistics 485, so I don't want to waste your time trying to teach that. So what we're going to do is just filter them out. We're going to go to data. You're going to go to select cases. You're going to go to if. I already have it ready, but I'm going to just delete it and start all over. So you see that this participant had skipped it, so you want to filter out cases where the quality of life has to be greater than 0. And then you have 18, so you say, okay, the quality of life also has to be, oops, okay, so we're going to hit and. I forgot to hit that one. And then we're going to move over quality of life, and this time it has to be less than 11. So we're going to hit and. So just because of these two right here, I already selected out two of the cases. And then stress, it's on a scale of 1 to 10. So what I could do is bring this over here and do stress has to be less than or equal to 10. And you can do one more just in case where stress has to be greater than 0. So you hit continue. You can either filter out the unselected cases, or you can do this over here where the data that you don't want will remain in this file, and then it'll create a new data set for you without those data that you didn't want. So you can do that. I just prefer to filter out the unselected cases. I rather just leave it in here. So you hit OK, and then it filters it. So it took out these last 3. So if I were to do an ANOVA or something, my results would get thrown off because of this and these empty spaces. Okay, so back to that. So you want to say, for example, I dropped 3 data because the participants either forgot to answer a question or they had given a response that didn't lie within the options given. So that's a very specific reason why you got rid of the information. Or you can say there were several outliers that were strongly influencing the results. So we had filtered out the outliers for the purposes of the study. Like you want it to reflect your sample as well as possible. Okay. Material, stimuli, and or measures. Whatever you use, you have to include it. You have to describe what it was that you used for your study and include information about its reliability and validity. We will talk about this in lab this week. And your assignment for this week is about this, so you'll learn about it and then you can include it in here. And then also include the exact 100% copy of the scale that you used or stimuli, measure, whatever. That goes in the appendix that's towards the end of your term paper. Hiya! Unagi! I don't know if you guys watch Friends, but I saw this on Google when I was looking up images and I died. Don't forget to cite. And what I mean by that is don't forget to cite the materials that you use. Like if you used the Beck Depression inventory, the BDI, you have to cite that. Okay, procedure. You have to include the step-by-step information on what you did so that if people decided to spend the time to replicate the study, they can do it with as little error as possible. So what you have to do is make sure you have a surveillance camera inside your lab so you could remember every single thing you did. And the more accurate you are with your description, the less likely that researchers to have errors. So the more precise, the more direct, the more rich in information, the better off you guys will be. So try to record yourselves. Just kidding, not down to the millisecond. You guys just have to do the general, like, this is how we collected our participants. We had them come in and sit in like a classroom setting, blah, 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 blah. And then you just, that's pretty much all they need to know is the important stuff. In the procedure, you can also include the study design type. So a 2x2 mixed subject ANOVA or something to that effect. And then I want you to include the information on the statistical analyses that you guys had used. I didn't know that Debbie had said you can't just do correlations, so that kind of sucks, but I respect her choice. So what you can do is a multiple regression and an ANOVA, but out of my own curiosity, I'd probably try to look up the correlations as well. So yeah, that's that. And I have some stuff on SPSS that I just wanted to show you, and then that'll be that. Okay, so we filtered out these cases. Now we're gonna go to analyze. We already got our descriptives. Now I want to do a univariate analysis of my variables. So move this over here and that over there. So my DV is aggression, perceived level of aggression. Quality of life is my fixed factor, and perceived level of stress is my fixed factor as well. I'm just going to go to options to see if there's anything I'd like. You could always choose descriptive statistics through here as well. Hit continue, and then I'm going to hit OK. Or, like earlier, you can hit paste, and it will go to your syntax editor. So then you could just highlight it and then hit the play button, and then it runs it for me. So yeah, this descriptives table is pointless. I'm gonna delete it. So here's my my ANOVA. My DV is perceived level of aggression. We see the quality of life is significant, the stress is significant, and then the interaction between the quality of life and stress is significant. So you're going to be talking about that information, how these things are affecting each other and aggression. So that's one kind of analysis that you can use. You could also do a regression, a multiple regression. So I'm going to put aggression for my DV, and then independent variable quality of life, perceived level of stress. And then let's say I want to control for let's see. I want to see if birth country has an effect on if it's acting as a confounding variable. So go to options. Sorry, wrong one. Statistics. I'm gonna pick descriptives. You don't have to do the R² change. Just the R² is good enough. Hit continue, and then you can do the paste thing again. Not it. Right here. Highlight it. Hit play. Okay, so you have your descriptives over here, and then your correlations. We see that quality of life and the level of aggression has a correlation of negative 0.633, and if we come down here, we see it's significant at p less than 0.001. So what this means is as the perceived level of aggression increases, then the quality of life decreases. So that's that relationship right there. And then you see perceived level of stress, it has a correlation of 0.678, which is also significant at p less than 0.001. So this is suggesting that as the perceived level of aggression increases, so does stress. Sorry, I was reading it weird. Going back, quality of life, as quality of life decreases, it is likely that the perceived level of aggression is to increase. And for this one, perceived level of stress, increased perceived level of stress is likely to influence higher levels of perceived aggression. The thing about correlations is that it can go either way. We don't know which way it's going, so I just like reading left to right. That's why I made that correction. Okay, so we have our r squared. We see that these three variables account for approximately 52% of the variance, which is pretty good. I mean, I don't know if that's good, but I think that's pretty high. I've never made fake data with a variance that high. So we have our ANOVA saying that our regression model is significant. It's a reliable model, and then we come down here to see if any of these have a significant effect on it. So quality of life, we see that it's less than 0.05. So that means this is significant. It has a significant effect. And then this is perceived level of stress. We see it's p less than 0.01 or p equal to 0.003. And then birth country is not significant. So don't forget that the way you analyze a correlation, you could analyze a multiple regression the same way. So as the quality of life decreases, the perceived level of aggression is going to increase, vice versa. And remember, this is the multiple regression is like analyzing a variable while holding everything else zero. So keep that in mind. Okay, and then for correlations, that one's just easy. You go to correlate, bivariate, and then move over the ones that you're interested in, education level, ethnicity, gender. This is a giant table. Don't be intimidated. It's really easy to read. If you need help, let me know. I'd rather you be safe than sorry. So, yeah, don't be afraid to shoot me an email. You see these two asterisks mean that it's significant at 0.01, and then if it's just one asterisk, like up here, it's significant at 0.05. So that's all about the methods section. There was something I wanted to share with you guys. Where is it? Okay. Let's go ahead and hit escape. Okay, so teaching. Okay. I'm uploading this PDF onto Moodle, and I sent this Juan and Katie to see if they thought it was, um, if it was good or if it needed anything else. Um, Juan thought it was good, so I haven't heard back from Katie yet, but I think I think it'll really help you guys out a lot. So we have on the left side the analysis or the test type for your study, and then synonyms or different ways of saying it. Correlation, we have things like relation, correlated, association. Um, these are things that you could use. You could also say things like, I don't know why I have an extra comma there, but whatever. You can say things like, it is likely that this variable can affect the other in a way that as the first variable decreases, the other increases, or something to that effect. Multiple regression is the synonyms are affects and predicts. So you can say the quality of life. I think I spelled this affect incorrectly, or I'm just confusing myself. Anyway, I'll skip that for now. You can say quality of life predicts predicts aggression to this extent, blah blah blah. And then for effects, wow, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on this one. I think it's supposed to be with an A. That's something I'd have to double check. It's most likely in your guys' textbook. For the model summary, that's when you get your variance. So we have X% of variance is explained by ... And then another one, X% of variance is accounted for by ... Paired samples t-test, there was a significant difference between the means of both groups. The mean for each of the two groups are significantly different from each other. Independent samples t-test, it's similar, the synonyms. And I left this italicized note of not forgetting the difference between these two. One-way ANOVA, there's quite a lot. There was a significant difference between both groups. The difference between the variances of both groups were significant. The differences among the variances of the groups were significant. Main effect 1 had a significant effect, and then on variable y, main effect 2 had a significant effect on variable y. The interaction effect had a significant effect on variable y. The univariate ANOVA, again, see above. Repeated measures ANOVA. I left an italicized note here, and I'll go over that real quick. There was a significant difference between time 1 and time 2 for both groups. So this interpretation, you could use it when the study has 2 or more different groups being measured at being measured twice or multiple times. Okay, continuing on, there was a significant difference between the pre-test and post-test. The differences between the baseline and post-test for both groups were significant. So I'm going to have this on Moodle for you guys. I hope you find it helpful. And then I'm going to be uploading the video and the PowerPoint as well. And hopefully I've given you guys enough to do your methods section without too much struggle. Again, feel free to email me. I'll try my best to reply as soon as possible, and please don't wait until the last minute. I will see you guys later on this week, actually tomorrow and Friday. Okay, bye.